Hey, thanks for joining me. I have recently been reviewing the Devil's Reign crossover from Top Cow, crossing over with the Marvel characters. Before that, I've been going through every issue of Cyberforce, like I've done with all these Image comics from the early days. I have been going through issue by issue, every one of all the main titles that I collected from everybody: Spawn, Savage Dragon, obviously Wildcats, Cyberforce, Youngblood, all that type of stuff. I just recently did Wildcats 50, but the issue that I had reviewed before Wildcats 50, the last one before that was like issue, I think it was 31. And I didn't collect any of the ones in between 31 and 50. And it wasn't until I was reading Wildcats 50 that I was like, why did I stop collecting it? And I was like, oh, right. The artist that I liked was gone, and I wasn't into it. And there's became a situation for me personally where I'm like, I can't afford to buy everything, especially if I don't like the art. I mean, yeah, you show up for the art, you stay for the story. But if the art's terrible, I just and not even terrible. The art. I mean, I've seen some of the pages on the inside of some of those books of the Wildcats, and I'm like, okay, that's not terrible, but it wasn't Travis Charest. That was the problem, and it's not the same. And I think Alan Moore took off and left, so they had someone else writing it. I'm like, I'm not into this. This sucks. And that's kind of the same thing with Cyberforce. Last issue I did was 29, and then the Devil's Reign crossover come up, and I've looked through all of those. And so I've got issue 30 and then 31. And I'm kind of think that maybe I'll go over them both here. But the interesting thing is that this right here, this is the end of Cyberforce for me. Now, issue 31 is not the end of the run. I just know that this is the last one that I collected. And so I had to go look it up, and I saw that Cyberforce went to issue 35. And then it was canceled before they went off to do other stuff. I'm sure Cyberforce wasn't really working, and it probably wasn't selling. And they had successes with Witchblade and Darkness. But Cyberforce was just kind of one of those things that at this point it's been going for a couple of years, and it never found its footing, really. It never had any kind of really big push that really made it stand out. Like Wildcats had Alan Moore writing it, and that will put eyes on it all over the place. Cyberforce never had that. And so for whatever the reason was, they decided to cancel it. But I have to imagine maybe it was just sales related. But I know that I stopped collecting it here at 31 because David Finch stopped drawing it. And the guy that they had drawing it, Kurt Van Warmer, I believe it is, because he draws part of this book too. He's certainly a fine artist. But at the time, I was like, he's not enough to keep my interest. I can't collect this book because the characters are not that interesting. They're just not. But if you have good art and a fun action story, that's enough to keep me interested for a little while. But I wasn't sure if I should do these one by one because there's something interesting about both of these on a small scale. But we'll start with Cyberforce number 30, and I'll decide if I want to do them both. I don't know. But this was an issue that they put out there while the Devil's Reign was going on. They didn't want to cease publication of Cyberforce to let the Devil's Reign crossover go, I guess. So they put this out there. So this story happens in between the whole Devil's Reign thing. And I'm like, God, I don't know who this artist is, but it's a little cartoony, goofy. Now, Cyberforce for me, this is an entirely subjective opinion, but like Cyberforce has always been kind of like a straight up like X-Men type tough guy superhero comic. What I mean by that is like a cartoony art style to me does not work on Cyberforce. It is not what I want to see. It is not the same. It does not work. That is a personal opinion. A David Finch, a Mark Silvestri, artist like that is the kind of art that fits these characters. They're not that interesting. They're just kind of like watered down versions of the X-Men in a way. But this cartoony style, I'm like, this is like The artist is certainly fine, but I feel like this is a complete mismatch of style that shouldn't work. I don't know who Scott Lee is. I don't know. Kevin Conrad on inks, and there's a list of inkers. So Kevin Conrad I've heard of, and Norm Ratman, but I don't know who Charles Drost is. Harry Thurin Jr. and David Makis? I don't know who those guys are. And there is some art in this book that is astonishingly, unbelievably fucking horrible. Like, I don't want to say that. I'm not trying to be disrespectful, and I know that might sound kind of funny considering some of the stuff I say about some books and some creators. But I usually say it with a certain amount of like, we're just kind of joking here. I'm being kind of lighthearted about it, but I also like to give my honest opinion on it. But there's some shit in this book that's unbelievably god-awful. Just the worst. And so we'll get to it. This opening splash page, that's not too bad. I mean, I'm looking at it, and like, does Ripclaw only have one arm? I guess his other arm, oh, it's down here. There it is. Okay. It's kind of fine. I don't give a shit about the story. This is just Cyberforce characters, like, being amongst the horrible shit that's going on in the Devil's Reign crossover. I don't care about that. This is just kind of an in-between story. It doesn't matter. But this is kind of an okay shot. The colors look good. I like the lightning striking the building in the background. It feels rainy. It's not bad. Okay. It's not terrible. It's littered with text boxes telling you shit. I'm sure is super interesting. And by interesting, I mean absolutely not. But then Ripclaw, he's just like crawling up the building, and then he's just looking out at the city street, and he's kind of thinking about how their great and powerful and wonderful leader, Heatwave, got turned into a flaming demon villain bad guy, and now he's working with the enemy, and the streets are literally flowing with blood. This is kind of an okay double splash. The shot of the guy turning into a bad guy and lording over the city in flames. It's kind of fine. Ripclaw down here, he's kind of fine. It's okay. It's not blowing me away. The coloring is great. All right. So poor Heatwave. He's going to be a bad guy, and our characters get to stand around in the rain. And text boxes say things like, deep within him, his noble heart trembles. Jesus Christ, stop. And then you get with the other characters. There's Velocity looking out a window, and you can see how the artist is drawing her, like putting her face and her hands up against the glass, trying to do something different. That's fair. But again, this artist has such a cartoony style. This isn't too exaggerated. It's kind of fine, but like I said, it gets really worse. It gets to be kind of awful. But we're just kind of catching up with each character. They're all worried. Like, there's Cyblade. She's like, oh, Dylan, why couldn't you tell us? That's Heatwave. His name is Dylan Cruz. It's the worst name ever. But they're just so sad that he's, turned into a bad guy. There's Impact, just walking out in the rain because, of course, that's fine. We just got to catch up with every character. And they're just sitting around, just yapping, talking. It's again, I don't care about the story. There's nothing really super exciting here. There is kind of like a burgeoning romantic entanglement between Ballistic here and Stryker. Like, Ballistic shows up, she flips down, gets into the room, shows up, makes out with Stryker, steals a cigar and starts puffing on it. I'm like, okay. I mean, they're both like, warriors with robotic eyes and robotic arms and have blonde hair. I bet if they have a child, it'll have blonde hair and robotic eyes and robotic arms. Can you imagine that story? Like, she literally gives birth and he's got cybernetic arms and eyes just like them. Like, oh, you got mommy and daddy's eyes and arms and shit. What would be an even more fucked up story is if the kid came out normal, but they're like, no, we gotta make this kid ours. And they surgically remove the baby's eyes and arms and make a little baby version of the, anyway, this is fucking stupid. I'm trying to make more interesting stories in this fucking shit. Again, so now we're back with Impact. He's out roaming around. He runs into some girl. Like, this drawing is like 90% fucking shoe. Again, there's this artistic kind of cartoony style where giant big feet thing. Sure, but that doesn't work in a fucking Cyberforce comic, in my opinion. She's just like 90% fucking shoe. So, oh, or she's an orphan. Like, oh, that sucks. I'm sorry. Or is he being fooled because of the evil shit going on in the world? Oh, I don't know. Some of the art, I was talking about all these inkers. I've heard the name Kevin Conrad. I definitely know Norm Ratman. I wish I knew which pages he did, because Norm Ratman's a good inker. I don't know who these other guys are, but there's some inking in this book that is fucking terrible, and it may not show up, but it's some scratchy, like, not the level that Top Cow should have. Top Cow, to me, has always been like, we've got great artists and great inkers and great colorists, no matter what else you may say. But there's some real shit work going on here. So whatever's freaking Impact out. Then you cut to, here's the Cyberforce team. And I saw this. I'm like, what the hell are... Okay, they're on a motorcycle. She's just running. I'm like, is he on a motorcycle too? This is just the front, and like the composition of it, the shot choice, it doesn't work. And I gotta say, like, again, you may not be able to see it or kind of tell, but the inking going on here is just kind of awful. From a group of artists, well, from a studio that in my mind is known for having incredibly competent and skilled pencilers and inkers, and it may not show up to anybody else. Some about that is not working. It just doesn't work. But again, it gets worse. But again, this shot, I'm like, even this front part of the motorcycle, it looks like it's turned at an angle that it's this way when it should be angled more this way. It just looks so weird. Now, motorcycles are hard to draw. Vehicles are hard to draw. And you got a big splash page, but somebody should have stopped him and like, no, this doesn't work. This sucks. But the team is on the way to help. All right, good job, team. So they go to help Impact, and he's like, holy shit, there's someone here. But she's gone. There's a weird drawn face. But the art just gets really like lackluster, amateurish, and just it doesn't work. This train shot's kind of interesting. But now a bunch of demon monsters come showing up. This is kind of an okay double page spread. It's kind of shaped weird here. The neck is, he almost looks like an inhuman, almost like he's part lizard monster, like this scaly thing on his back connecting to his neck here. Just kind of weird. Cyblade's face looks kind of weird. Whatever. Giant demon monsters have shown up. Now we got to fight them. Anyway, so now our team's tackling a bunch of demon monsters. They're fighting. It's a little chaotic, but the drawings are not great. They're in like a underground subway tunnel. So, I guess the environment works, but whoever this artist is, again, this is years and years ago. So if he's still drawing, I bet you he's a million times better. But I forgive early works. Like, everyone has to start somewhere. I get it. But Jesus Christ, what is this? Again, this is like cartoony, like animation type weird stuff. It does not work for me at all in terms of what I feel like Cyberforce should have in terms of art style. That to me is awful. That fist is terrible. And again, it's intentionally pushing. It's not trying to be like a John Byrne or a Jim Lee or Mark Silvestri kind of like realistic-ish proportions. It's intentionally going into a cartoony style. It's not like they're trying to do something like they're aware. This artist is aware of what he's doing, but I don't like it. It doesn't work. He doesn't know how to render shiny metal. That's the other thing. Cyberforce is all about fucking metal bits. And this artist does not know how to render shiny metal. unless he was on like a huge time crunch and just blasting through pages and they're just rushing it out. But his metal textures are awful. The figure work is weird. The storytelling is kind of odd. None of this looks great for a fucking Cyberforce comic. Like, this is the worst art I've ever seen in one of these books ever. Look at this shot. Again, if I bring this up close, like the rendering and inking on that forearm, this is like crap super amateur hour. It does not work at all. And then that shot of Cyblade's face. It's so goofy. It's just, I look at that, I'm like, that is, again, for a Top Cow book, when you're looking at like freaking Michael Turner ad over here, or you've seen Silvestri or Finch or any of the other guys, Joe Benitez, and this is just awful. They're fighting these monsters, they're blowing things away, but again, look at this weird shot. It's, I don't know what to tell you. Like, if you see it and you don't agree with me, I understand. Like, this is the basic angle's kind of okay, but the rendering, this is such like, again, let me bring it up close. Like, look at these ink lines going on here. This is a giant double page spread. This is where you should be like putting in your maximum effort. And this is just like a sketchy amateur hour book as compared to what you should be seeing in a Top Cow book. Like, this sucks. I do not like it. Clearly. I was like, boy, am I fucking out of this book. I do not care. And then, there's an image of, there's Heatwave being a bad guy. And he's got giant fucking boots. And that's the end of that. So I'm like, God damn. I thought that was terrible. And I guess we could continue on to the final issue. Final issue of Cyberforce. Issue 31. Like I was saying, this is the last one I collected. This is the wrap-up to the Devil's Reign. This is where the characters are going to have some resolution to the shit that's going on. You get a kind of an okay David Finch cover. Finch is one of those guys, I've said this before, like when he started, I was kind of a fan, and then he kind of excelled really well on Cyberforce when he first got going. But then his art evolved into a style that I actually ended up not liking. And it wasn't quite here yet, but this is him kind of trending towards, like, he's not good at drawing girls, specifically their faces. And he went off, and he eventually would start doing work for Marvel. He was doing some X-Men stuff. And I got so sick of David Finch's work, I actually stopped collecting a book because he drew it. But then he's then evolved again, and now I will pick up a book because David Finch drew it. It's a really weird thing. But there was a time when Finch's art was like, this shit sucks. I do not like this. I don't know what happened. But now, like, I got done reviewing just in recent months Skinbreaker that he just did. I thought that looked incredible. It's an absolutely fantastic book art-wise. But yeah, he's starting to trend towards not being my favorite artist anymore. Well, he was never my favorite artist, but not enough to make me want to collect it. But like I was saying, issue 31, this is the last book that Finch touches in terms of sequentials before he goes off. I think he went off to go do, was it Ascension? Like the Angel and Demon story, which was artistically pretty damn good, but just like not interesting. But yeah, Kirk Van Wormer and then David Finch. Kirk Van Wormer draws the majority of this book, and Finch has got a few pages. We got Joseph Weems. I'm pretty sure Weems is inking Finch, and that is always the peak version of them. Finch with Weems is incredible. Splash page of a big house. They're like, all right, well, this is our house now, because their underground superheroic Cyberforce headquarters got blown up. So now they got this giant mansion. And Velocity, she's out walking around, and she runs into Ripclaw. She's like, I was going to run into the city, just hang out and kill some time until... hinting towards something. And he's like, well, just as long as you're careful, and you'll be back in time this evening, right? And she's like, of course I will. I was like, oh, right. They're going to have a funeral for Heatwave. Remember, he was their leader, and he turned into a bad guy. And he ended up dying at the end of the Devil's Reign. And like I said in that whole run, holy shit, do we not care? We do not fucking care about Heatwave. Like, they're trying to make us like a forced emotional connection to this character who's been in the book since day one. But he's like a boring version of Cyclops from X-Men, and that's saying a lot. I like Cyclops. Like, he's a legit character. But take Cyclops and strip away anything that's interesting. Just have a generic leader who stands around and is like, okay, team, let's go. And he shoots lasers. That's all Heatwave ever did. There's nothing to him. And so we don't care that he's dead. We don't, and so I could see that's like they had to choose a member of Cyberforce to kill. I guess Heatwave is the one. They should have killed Impact. No one gives a shit about the big strong guy. No one cares about that fucker. But we're supposed to care. Coloring looks fantastic. Really, really like that shot of Ripclaw's face. The shading on that, the inking on that. Absolutely beautiful drawing. Looks great. But then we cut back. So the whole thing is about the team getting ready, specifically, I think, through the eyes of, I almost call her Fairchild. Jesus Christ, I got Gen 13 in my mind. Of Velocity here, of the death of their teammate. So everyone's kind of hanging out, and everyone's kind of meandering around, and like, we're doing this, we're doing that, and whatever. And this artistically is kind of fine. You know, it looks all right. Then we cut back to Cyblade. It's kind of fine. Finch is definitely doing some interesting kind of panel composition with like a big full bleed open panel of the shot of the character and then inset panels and the kind of way these panels are staggered down here and how the full bleed art from the top panel just bleeds straight into the bottom panel. I think it works. It's kind of interesting. They're just setting up future stuff. Like, this is a government guy. He's like, hey, you guys are a super team, and, you know, the government doesn't like you doing shit, but I can kind of help you. You guys are doing good shit. I can feed you information if you guys will go do cool superheroic shit in the places that it's really needed. And Sideblade's like, okay, sounds good. You know, they're kind of setting up the future for the next 4 issues, which I never collected, and I have no idea what happens, and I'm sure they're just super not interesting. Now we're done with Finch's artwork, and we're into Kurt Van Wormer, who, again, he's certainly a fine artist. I never heard his name before Top Cow, and I don't think I've ever heard it since. I don't know who he is, what he does. He's certainly got skill, but he doesn't have that flair that I was kind of used to with the Top Cow artist. So again, no disrespect meant, but it's just kind of okay. But now we get into a story, which I think is kind of, they're trying to have a human moment where Velocity and Ballistic, they're sisters, and they've never been particularly close, and it's always been a strained relationship, but they're going to have a whole scene where they're out together in the city having adventures. Like, they're out trying to have fun, but of course it's a comic book, so, you know, they're going to get into some kind of fights and shit. I mean, that's all fine. That's the type of stuff you can see in a comic book. So the artist has to put her in some kind of, like, I almost said human clothes, but civilian clothes rather than their superhero outfits. But again, it's kind of a wide upper body ballistic shot and skinny little narrow hips, but it kind of works. But hey, they're kind of running. They ran into each other and they're going to hang out, and so they spend some time talking, and then I kind of appreciate what they're trying to do. Again, these characters have had a strained relationship because they're all involved in the Cyberforce and the fighting and all this type of stuff, and Ballistic is a hard-nosed warrior bitch, and Velocity's, I think she's like a 16 or 17-year-old kid, so there's a big age gap, and they just don't know each other that well, so they're trying to build the relationship as they kind of casually wander by an alleyway, and some, you know, street toughs get, you know, shitty with them, so we beat the piss out of him and dump him in a dumpster. That's fine. Now they go to a street vendor. He's doing a 3-card Monty, you know, like keep your eye on the card, flip, 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 flip. And of course, Velocity, her whole power is about speed, so we're watching through her eyes. She watches, and she actually took the card right from the guy so fast he couldn't even see it. She's like, that's the card, right? I win, right? Right? And of course, Ballistic is going to back her up like, you're going to make good on your word. Like, she beat you, right? Like, oh, they're having fun. They're having adventures out there on the city. So then Ballistic takes a fucking miner to a bar to drink beer. Hell yeah. There's some old man. Of course, he's going to let Ballistic in because they know each other. Like, hey, this is my sister. And she's, oh my God, hi, how are you? It's so great to be here. So now they sit down and they have kind of like a funny conversation back and forth about, like Ballistic is doing like impersonations of like lines from movies. They're trying to interject some humanity into Ballistic, which has been severely lacking. They're trying here. Um, I'm trying to figure out if they actually say, because I kind of peruse this. I don't want to read all these fucking words. I don't give a shit about any of this. Um, I just if they're giving her alcohol or not. Oh yeah, a Coke for the girl. So of course they're not going to give the minor alcohol, but she's not supposed to be in there anyway. But whatever. So now they sit and they talk and they go back and forth and they talk about life, and it says we talked for hours, everything from heat wave to all that craziness about life after cyber data and her and Stryker. Like they're just having a heart to heart about everything. Of course, Ballistic is like toasted. She's got like what 5 empty jars of glasses of beer because she's a drunk loser. And, Ballistic is going to get up and go take a piss because she's got all this beer in her. So now Velocity gets to sit by herself and is kind of lost in her own thoughts for a minute. Now, artistically, storytelling-wise, this all works. Kurt Van Wormer, his storytelling works. Some artists can draw really pretty pictures, but they can't tell a story to save their life. But I can follow everything, and you're getting into some interesting shot choices with like her seeing her reflection on the countertop and she's running her finger along. I've been in some bars, and there's no countertop I'd want to be like running wet liquids across with my finger. It's all gross. This shot with the glasses right there, kind of that shot choice composition, it works. It's fine. But she's sitting there. So now while Ballistic is off taking a piss, maybe puking, Velocity starts like kind of like mimicking her, trying to like say the funny lines from the movies like she was. She's like, no, I'm not doing it right. So she messes up her hair and uses her hands to boost up her tits so she can kind of look more like Ballistic. And she's just kind of being a goofball. And then she gets out a cigarette because she wants to be tough like her sister. So she takes a drag on the smoke and it makes her cough up a lung, and she knocks over her drink, and it's kind of stereotypical like young kid trying to do cool adult shit, and it's not fun. And then, of course, artistically it gets a little bit sparse and not super great, but bad guys show up to rob the place. And of course, Velocity don't give a shit. She's not scared. And I like how they're kind of showing like how she's not worried. That works, but the art's kind of like getting a little not amazing. Velocity's not scared. Ballistic shows up and pulls a gun on him, and guy's got a knife to Velocity's throat, and Velocity don't care. She's not worried because she's a superhero, and so Velocity just zips out of his grip, shows up, and they have some words back and forth. Bad guy's got guns pointed at him, and Ballistic, of course, shoots a bullet straight down the barrel of his gun, which blows up in his hands, and he runs off. But, of course, Ballistic is outside because she's super fast. She stops them from getting away, zips around him real fast, and beats the piss out of him, and comes back because I guess the guys were running away with cash. Yeah, they actually did get some money, but now they're returning the money. Good job, guys. And so the girls are like, we had a great night. We talked, we got drunk, we beat up bad guys. This is a great night. They hug each other, and they're like, hey, so we'll meet up later, right? We're going to be at the thing. And she's like, yep, wouldn't miss it. And she's like, all right, I'll see it. Velocity takes off. And so now we have to go to the thing. So now we cut to good exterior shot of this mansion place, good interior shot of the room. I like that. But Velocity, 17-year-old girl, she's in her underwear. We got to sexualize her, of course. But she's sitting there going over in her mind what she should be wearing to the funeral. And she's like, you know what? There's only one thing to wear. Now, look, I got to point this out. I do like to draw, and I know some things are really hard to draw. But this does not, because this is a dress that she was going to wear that she's dropping on the ground. That does not look like folds in cloth at all. I don't know what that looks like. It does not look like a dress falling on the ground. Drawing, folding cloth like a dress being dropped on the floor, that's tricky. That does not work. That fucking sucks. But the story point is that she's like, in the end, there's only one thing I should wear to the funeral. Not her nicest dress, but her superhero outfit. So, of course, for Dylan Cruz, Heatwave, the character we fucking don't care about, they've got this whole monument built to him. Circle thing on the ground, a column coming up, fire coming out of it because he's just the greatest hero. And we're so glad that we get to honor the history and the heroic nature of this character we don't fucking care about. So this is a pretty good shot of Ripclaw. The artist really did a good job there. And he's quoting, it says, Ripclaw read from this poem by this guy named Shelley. Shelley wrote it when one of his friends died, this other poet named Keats. And so the quote that Ripclaw is reading from this poem says, Peace, peace, he is not dead, he doth not sleep, he hath awakened from the dream of life. The one remains, the many change and pass, heaven's light forever shines, earth's shadows fly, life, like a dome of many-colored glass, stains the white radiance of eternity. Like, oh, okay, it's an emotional, like, poetry reading to the death of fucking Heatwave, who we don't care about. And we get the obligatory, like, silhouette shot of everyone standing around as if we give a shit. Good kind of, like, the framing art around this. That looks pretty good. I do like that. And then, of course, there's a whatever this thing is where they engrave it onto your tombstone and just show the faces of everybody like, oh my God, poor Heatwave, he's gone. We're so sad. We're so sad that Heatwave is gone. And Velocity's like, I try real hard not to cry. And then it cuts back to later. Velocity's in her room, in her bed, writing in her journal. And the one thing that I thought actually worked as a storytelling device to make us feel like we actually give a shit about Heatwave a little bit is like, the character's thinking about him, and he's gone and he's dead. And there's just this picture on the wall that we get close up on. There's Heatwave flying through the sky, energy crackling from his hands, just a picture of the guy. And it's like, he's gone, we'll never forget. I feel like that has like the potential for an emotional kind of moment better than like all this dramatic poetry reading and gravestone shit. Just a simple, like, we just cut to a picture of the character on the wall. He's gone. He was a mainstay in the book for 30 issues. He's dead now, but I kind of like the picture on the wall. It's just like a simple, subtle little thing that actually kind of works. The end. And then, of course, the next issue, Cyberforce must stand against the tyranny of a despotic usurper of Cyblade's homeland. Fucking who cares? I don't. I stopped collecting. And again, it goes 4 more issues before they cancel it. And so, yeah, this is not the end of the publication of the comic book Cyberforce, but it is the end of my run in terms of the first volume. And again, there's a little bit of me that, especially now that I'm older, coming up on 50 in like 6 months, when I was reading these, when I was like a 20-year-old kid or whatever the fuck, these things were like, these comics were so fun, all things considered, especially when you were young. If you were there in the 90s, when the Image guys, before they formed Image, everything that Marvel was doing, the X-Men's and Spider-Man's and X-Force and Guardians of the Galaxy and all that stuff. It was so fun. And then the formation of Image and all these titles, Mark Silvestri's Cyberforce, Jim Lee's Wildcats. Oh my God, it was such a big deal. And the quality and, how much we want to remember these things may have waned quite a bit. But I get a little bit kind of like, it's over. Now, they do have a couple more volumes. I think I looked up. There's like 5 different volumes of Cyberforce, so 4 more attempts to revitalize the concept, and they only go a couple of issues. It never catches on again. Cyberforce is done. There's a part of me that's kind of like, hey, Mark, will you let me do Cyberforce? I'll draw a Cyberforce fucking comic. I'll do a version of it. I can fantasize, guys. I can dream. I feel like there's a nugget of potential in there. It just never made it. But yeah, end of Cyberforce. There's no more. I have enjoyed going through every issue, showing the characters as they're drawn by different people, from Silvestri to Finch to a bunch of other fill-in artists. It's all been kind of fun. I have fond memories of it, more of a nostalgic memory rather than, oh my God, these are good comics. They're just kind of okay, very mid-tier books. But yeah, they found Top Cow found success with like more supernatural shit, Witchblade Darkness type stuff, and the superhero thing was kind of waning. People weren't caring, and so Cyberforce is done. So just like Wildcats, it was over. But Wildcats at least went on to a volume 2 with Travis Charest and was awesome for a couple of issues, and then kept going for a long run of really good comics. Cyberforce never got a second life that ever really mattered, and it's kind of a bummer. Anyway, that's it. That's all I got for Cyberforce 31. That's it. Cyberforce is over. I don't know that I've got any more. I don't know there's ever going to be any more videos on Cyberforce in terms of books we haven't looked at yet. I kind of want to dig out. I say kind of, meaning like I'm thinking about it, but I'm 100% going to sometime here soonish, is dig out the Killer Instinct crossover when Wildcats and Cyberforce both started back up their books. Jim Lee and Silvestri crossed over their characters, Cyberforce and Wildcats, and I've already reviewed them. It's like 3 years ago, but I want to look at them again. That was fun. Jim Lee, Silvestri's characters together, crossover, great art between Lee and Silvestri. It's fun, but in terms of new Cyberforce content, it's I don't think there's anything else. It's done. It's I'd say it's a bummer, but I mean, who cares, right? Anyway, that's it. Cyberforce 31. Cyberforce is over. That's all I've got. Thanks for joining me. See you next time.